Hello, Internet. This is the Backdrop Weekly Developers Meeting on a particularly fun date of December 22nd, 2022. And we get together every week to talk about priorities for Backdrop development. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the Internet, core committer and tech lead for the Backdrop project. I'm joined here by half a dozen folks, and we'll do a little bit of a introduction of everyone in the room. We'll start off with Luke, and then we'll go to Robert.
I was thinking, what are the odds he's going to call me first? So I shouldn't be printing this just right now. But I don't know if it turns out. I'm Luke McCormick. Occasionally sell ear on the internet. I hail and currently exist in San Ramon, California, which is near San Francisco. And I do marketing things for Backdrop when I can. Robert looks ready.
Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet. Sorry, Nate, I stole your narration.
Keep going, it's fine.
I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet. I'm in Altadena, California. I work on various things lately, mostly contrib projects.
Thanks, Robert. Tim and then Jen.
Tim Erickson, I'm St. Paul Tim, in most places on the internet, including Mastodon now. I am in Deerwood, Minnesota, and I'm going to share the temperature is -7 degrees right now, or -22 Celsius. I like Celsius, that sounds better. That's it.
Thanks, Tim. Jen and then Joseph.
Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California, where it is a sunny 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and yeah, it's nice. That's it for me.
Thanks, Jen. Joseph.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm a core committer for Backdrop.
All right. Thanks, Joseph. All right, that's it for the crew today. Today's kind of big topic is that we've got the feature freeze for Backdrop 1.24 just around the corner. Feature freeze will be January 2nd, late January 2nd, on the observed holiday for New Year's Day. So let's see, before we get too much into topics for today, though, we have a little contrib update. Jen, do you want to fill us in on activity in contrib?
Sure. So we have a handful of new modules since last week. We have localization update module, which is actually one of our top 100 that hasn't been ready for a really long time. So that'll update our percentage of top 100 Drupal modules already. So that's kind of exciting. And then we also have Civi CRM, a form block. I don't know what that is, but sounds fancy. And I don't know last week if CK Editor Anchor Link was mentioned, but I just wanted to throw it out again because I know that's something that Tim worked on and I worked on and a handful of other people in the community worked on, and it's finally out. So that's kind of exciting. So that's it for new projects since last week.
Super. Okay, let's see, some general topics for discussion. Oh my, Tim's showing us the outside. The outside in Minnesota. Oops, that wasn't what I meant to do. Sorry, I meant to unpin you. I turned off your camera, Tim. You can turn it back on. Let's see. So, yeah, topics for today. First of all, is talking about some things over in Drupalland. Drupal 7 Soft Landing Initiative, which was initially started by a blog post that Tim wrote of the same name. And Tim, I'm curious if you could fill us in a little bit as to like what this initiative is and how it pertains to Backdrop.
Sure, I can say a little bit. It's still early days, though. Irina Zak has been sort of spearheading the actual initiative. She had a contract with the DA that just recently ended, and so now she's going to divert some of her attention to this. And I think the premise of the Drupal 7 soft landing initiative is simply that the recognition is growing in the Drupal community that there's a lot of people that are feeling stuck on Drupal 7 and just might not be ready for Drupal 10. And that, but we still want them to move forward and get off of Drupal 7 because it's, will no longer be supported soon. And I think the Drupal community doesn't want to keep supporting it forever. So they're totally open to working with whoever is willing to work with them to help these Drupal 7 sites. And I think Backdrop is considered relationships with the Drupal community have been improving. And I think right now a lot of people are looking to Backdrop to say, if you're able to help some of these Drupal 7s site owners move forward, let's do it. And right now, like how we're going to do that is still very vague. I know Irina has sort of a draft proposal that she's, I think, not quite ready to go public with yet. That talks a little bit about what she has in mind, and so hopefully we'll be hearing more about that in the weeks to come. But yeah, there is in the Drupal Slack, there's a specific channel for D7 soft landing. If anybody's interested in participating in that initiative, check that Slack channel out. And there's also the page, which I think is in our notes. There's a page on Drupal.org about the soft landing initiative, but it's still pretty sparse. So
Great. Thanks, Tim. All right, let's see. Next up, let's see. We have a note here about Coder Upgrade needing updates for PHP 8. So this is a Backdrop contrib module Coder Upgrade that helps people move from Drupal 7 to Backdrop. You throw in your Drupal module and it pops out a Backdrop one. I'm guessing, well, who filed this issue in the agenda? Was it Joseph?
I was the one who brought it up. I ran into this recently where basically if you try to run Coder Upgrade on a module while your local site you're running Coder Upgrade on is using PHP 8 or later, all the files that have PHP code in them their output will just be the words nothing to print. So I think there's some issues with some of the classes where it doesn't like the data is not preserved once the code is tokenized, and it just loses everything, and then there's nothing to print on the other end of the process. There is a newer version of the grammar parser library from Drupal.org that we could update to, but I think that's going to be quite a bit of work.
Got it. So grammar parser is another contrib module.
It's technically not a module, I think,
Hmm.
but it's hosted as a module on Drupal.org, but it itself is not actually a module.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So it looks like that's some work there. Is the grammar parser, is that also a contrib module right now in Backdrop land?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the grammar parser library is bundled in Coder Upgrade module.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, kind of like Odaya said earlier this year. Yeah, it would make sense to make a branch of the contrib module. So make a Coder Upgrade 2, and because if it has underlying dependencies and there's a fork in grammar parser, like we probably should also, fork the entire Coder Upgrade module if we're gonna have two completely different libraries between post PHP 8 and earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's got some things that need some issues. Oh, so this is also the contrib issue under the Coder Upgrade contrib project is issue number 72.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else to say about that, Joseph? Like, are there any plans to like who's taking the lead on doing that update?
I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up so people are aware of it.
Okay, okay, it's fine.
I considered taking a stab at that. Someone asked me to port a module and I ran into that. And I determined that it would be easier to downgrade my PHP version, run coder upgrade, and then re-upgrade PHP.
Yeah, that could be the approach a lot of people use in the meantime, I think. Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, today, yeah, we've got 11. Wait, that's not quite right. 10 days. I don't know, until January 2nd. I guess it's 11 days. 11 days until feature freeze for the 124 release. 124 is looking pretty slim at the moment as for things that are likely to be in it. There's 2 completed issues for 124 and then 4 open issues that are slated in the milestone. I can say that the one that I'm working on, issue 5748, which is just simply adding descriptions to user roles. As always, nothing is ever as easy as it seems. It's not that this is technically very difficult. It's that we need to make some decisions about what we're going to do with the contrib version or contrib module called role help. And yeah, Robert, you've been involved in this a little bit. It's kind of interesting the way things have turned out there. That I think the summary is that role help provides 2 fields. My pull request only provides 1 field. Role help provides 1 field called summary and 1 called help text. And I think that it turns out that summary is used both on the admin listing of roles and on the user profile form. And then the help text has a dedicated page in the role help module. Is that right?
Yes.
And our plan is that we're not going to make the dedicated page in the contrib or in the core module, meaning that we really, if we were to match what role help module does, we need 1 field. But I think everybody that's chimed in on that issue has said, well, 2 fields would actually be helpful and we should use them in different ways. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the thing is that people are saying that the listing of roles that you see on the main listing of all roles, that description there should be given an admin description, like the admin description of a block, for example.
Mhm.
But there's another description that people are saying would be helpful, which is when you're assigning the role on the user profile page to have a description there that describes the role in some other way. And I could see that as also being true because you might want to um, say the I don't know, the kinds of department that it receives a particular role, for example, on the user profile form. But you would probably want to say the like general kinds of permissions that you would assign a role on the admin side of the form. Also, the descriptions that we've provided for things like the authenticated user are really verbose, where it's like a special role that will be assigned to all users that are logged in. You know, permissions are added to this role will also be added to all other roles, for example. That's a, a big description, but one that's very useful for administrators to see on the role listing page, but way too verbose and not something you'd want to see at all on the user profile form. So yeah, so I that's the state of things, I think, which means that as far as the upgrade from role help module is concerned, I don't know. I don't know quite what to do.
Oh, I think there that can be done relatively gracefully. I mean, whatever we decide to do for the core role help so I guess a couple scenarios. One is, okay, core makes changes. People don't upgrade their role help module. What's going to happen? And it's role help will take over the display the way it used to. It'll provide its pages the way it used to in a couple places. It'll be a little confusing because on the role edit page, you'll see separate fields for role help and for the core fields.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be confusing, but it doesn't actually blow up.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, we can have an upgraded version of role help that says, if you've entered fields in role help, copy in the upgrade hook, copy those fields into the relevant core role fields and stop overriding them on the edit page.
Mm-hmm.
And then perhaps put up a status report saying you could actually disable role help and you'd lose that dedicated listing of roles, but you don't need that. You'd lose the separate roles tab. Maybe you want to keep role help around to have that or not. But I think we can make a graceful migration path from the relatively small number of users of role help to the new core fields.
Yeah, which direction are you thinking here? That would be provided by role help or be provided by core? The upgrade hook or update hook.
I guess I wasn't. I guess it could be either. If we do if we do the update hook, the update hook in core, the update hook in core can certainly copy the data out of role help and put it into the core fields,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be useful.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll still be left with with role help adding fields to the edit page, potentially confusing, and overriding the core, overriding what's displayed on the admin role page, which at least right now is what it does if you have both enabled.
Okay. So maybe trying
So
to
role help will need an update anyhow, just to play nicely going forward.
But I see kind of what you're saying that during the update for everything, so there's 3 roles that Backdrop Core knows about. Actually, I guess 4 if you include the editor role in the standard profile. There's obviously anonymous and authenticated, but then there's also the admin role, administrator, and there's also editor. So Core ostensibly knows about those 4 roles, but there's other roles that could be added, and especially if you're coming from Drupal 7, you might not have editor, you might have something like author or something like that. And the roles are maintained from your Drupal 7 site, upgrading to Backdrop. I think what we could do is we could check if a role help table is there, and if so, pull the summaries out of there and just use that to populate the role, the both fields actually. I think because if you're talking about being consistent between what Drupal 7 did and what Backdrop will do, we're only going to use the summary field from role help, and we're going to use it in both places on the user profile description and on the admin listing. And then that's better than leaving the description blank, which is what we would do otherwise for a role that we are not familiar with. But then the other roles will get the separate descriptions that we have already for that long verbose description for authenticated, for example. But we can still pull in role helps thing for the summary on the user profile form. Does that sound kind of like where we want to go? Maybe
Yeah, I think so.
that way it's a convenience thing. Maybe also post a message saying role help is now included in core. Link over to a change log, um, and that would include the nuances of like what the differences are and stuff like that. Because I think for almost everybody, if you have role help, you probably won't want it anymore after this. Like I think it's going to do what you want it to do, but role help will have like a very small addition to what core actually does by providing those dedicated role help pages.
Yeah, I mean, I figured we could even go so far as in the role helps upgrade in the upgrade hook, move the data over and then actually disable role help, except that will make pages disappear. So we don't want to do that, but we could put in like a status report or a message at the end of the upgrade that says some functionality is now of this is now in core. If you don't need these additional pages, you could disable role help entirely.
Yeah, I think our message, will probably be like some functionality from role help module has been included in core. You may want to disable this module, or you may decide to disable this module. See link, and
Yeah.
that would provide the nuances of it. Because that's what we have done for a lot of other modules, including things like entity reference, right? Where we literally just said this module is in core. You should disable the old one or remove the old one. Maybe that's not the best example, but usually when something gets moved into core, we just provide a message saying, hey, this module, you don't need it anymore. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's I wasn't quite sure what to do about this, because everybody coming in and saying 2 fields would be helpful, but it's different than anything that role help did before. I'm just like, well, now what? And it's also just 2 fields instead of 1. Gregory came in, Klonos, and said something about maybe we can also add like it shows and hides based on a checkbox or something like that. But honestly, the role form is so tiny. It's 1 field right now, the role name. And we're gonna make it 2 fields by adding the admin description. Now we'll add 3 fields by also giving it the other field. That's, I guess, one last thing is, what should we call the other field? There's admin description. I'm pretty sure we know that that's going to be used. But then summary was the other one, but I don't know. The field that gets shown on user profile forms, I'm not quite sure what to label that as.
Yeah, I don't have the issue of it, but I thought someone had suggested it was analogous to some other scenario that's already being done on Backdrop. We can just use that the same terminology.
Yeah, well, right now I have it just called description, but now there's going to be 2 fields. So description doesn't tell you which one. And Greg said calling it admin description, which I agree with. That should be shown on /admin pages. And then he said help text should be the other one. And I guess I'm not quite totally sold on help text because that's not something that we've seen other places. Admin description, yes. Help text, not so much. Because what it actually is it's going to be the description on the checkbox on the role form. So it's like it's still description, but it's a different one. It's not really help text, because help text normally is, pound help element, pound type equals help is usually at the top of the page. That's help text. So this is something slightly different.
Public description.
Public description. Yeah, admin description, role description. I mean, it seems redundant because you're clearly on the role page already. Anyway, anybody else have ideas? Or are we just like totally like just
Naming things is hard.
Yeah, naming things is hard. It's such a stupid thing that it's like, what do we call the second description?
I don't know. I feel like description and admin description adequately summarizes the difference. It's like one is on the admin pages and the other is all the other places.
Yeah. I guess this does actually make sense for mapping to what Greg kind of said. That we could have I don't know. I was thinking that we could have just description, and then if you didn't fill out admin description, it would be used in both places. So admin description would be optional.
Isn't that how
Description,
blocks work currently?
kind of.
Don't they show like one thing unless you add a description and then they show the description?
Yeah, they use the title provided by the block unless you specify the admin label, and then it uses that instead. But again, not quite exactly the same. But the thing that kind of gives me pause about that approach is that I think you want the admin description always, and a lot of people might not want a public description at all because that's the behavior they've been familiar with in the entire life of Drupal and their backdrop sites, that the role checkboxes don't have descriptions on them. And so I think that it's more likely that you'd actually want an admin description all the time, and only occasionally would you want a user profile description.
By the way, I found a place where we are using help text as a field label, and that's on fields.
Oh, really?
So if you go create a field or edit a field, the second thing on the form is help text.
That's because it can't be admin because fields aren't an admin task.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing that we're facing right now.
Yeah. Help text.
So I guess help text, I mean, I don't really like it.
But people will know what it is and we won't need to retranslate the string.
And it would be consistent. Yeah, that's a very strong argument in favor of that. We can even take the same description. What's the description on help text?
Instructions to present to the user below this field on the editing form.
Oh no, we used user. We're gonna have to fix that at some point.
Well, that sounds.
What are we calling it now?
We're calling people people.
Visitors?
But you have to like reword the whole sentence in order to do that. So it's
Oh, yikes.
yeah.
Yeah, if it's someone sitting at the keyboard, then it's a person. But if it's the thing on their computer, then that's the user account.
Yeah.
Changing sentence structures is also going to significantly affect translations.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. We can copy it now and change it later. All we have to do now is to decide to copy it. If we want.
Just copy the field label and use
the description.
And use the new description.
Or yeah, even better, use the new description. Yep, and then have a follow-up issue to fix the other description. Yeah, and have a bike shed issue about changing help text. Or not have one.
Yeah, well, user roles might make sense to have a more specific description than that, but we can definitely use the same basic premise as the role or as the field description. So maybe we could use people in that case, Jen, and come up with a better sentence, because it's not just, and also editing a user account is, I guess, I don't know. There's also, because it's like really most of the time you're going to be assigning the role when you create a user account, not when you are editing it. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like,
I think.
Yeah, just saying edit, and it was a little bit ambiguous what you would actually be editing, but clearly.
Well, that's because fields go on everything. So
yeah,
you have
exactly.
to be ambiguous.
Yep, but we don't have to be ambiguous for this. I don't think we should. Okay. All right, well, thank you for that little segue discussion into role help. That seems like we have a good way to move forward there. And thanks, Joseph, for looking that up. I wouldn't have guessed help text was something that we would have used already.
Yeah, I was pretty sure I had seen it somewhere. I just couldn't remember where.
Well, other items that we've got in 124, there is one pull request that needs review, which is provide a views handler to access properties from the info column in the system table. So this is a very niche thing. But that said, its pull request has been in review for months now without any feedback. So this is one that we could really pretty easily make happen. It's issue 5820. RG Piano is the advocate for it, and yeah, it doesn't look like it's very difficult at all. Let's see. The other ones that we have, alt and title fields for the image file type, issue 4007. This one has a really excellent set of specifications provided by Yorkshire Pudding, but it's almost certainly not going to happen because there's no pull request at all for it. And then this last one is really simple conceptually. Database log message is truncated at 56 characters and not configurable, from John Romine, and it needs work, but it's really, I think, quite simple. But I'm seeing, Robert, you posted a comment 3 weeks ago. Moving existing update hooks between modules is problematic. So this looks like it's possibly just a implementation change that needs to be fixed, possibly. Oh, I see. Maybe you're just saying that we can't move it to a different module. So you're just saying what we have right now is probably the correct way. Yeah. Yep.
Which number was that?
This is the database log length. It's issue 5553. And I think it's maybe a question about, do we put this in db log install or system.install?
Yeah, I think in my comment, I was just saying, I think moving it made sense, or having it in the new place made sense. But now that we've already got some hooks in place, the other hooks that tinker with those variables probably also belong in whichever the system.install. But once a hook is in place, it's got the numbering, and you can't change the number without making it hard for people to upgrade, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I think, yeah, so all of the existing update hooks look like they're related to the date format. And I agree that it's probable that all of these things should have been in system module and not in db log at all, because there's other logging systems besides db log. And if you're going the system core JSON file, all of the variables are just called like log format, log. Let's see what the other ones are. System core JSON, log format, log row limit, log identity, log facility, log format. Yeah, all of these things are generally like how you should save your log, and they're not specific to db log in particular. So yeah, they should have all been in system module to begin with, but yeah, we don't really have the ability to easily move them, like you say. And really, the nice thing is that all this date format stuff, it's all in a lot of ways optional. It's just the format that your dates are being stored in and your logging. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I think what you're saying is correct, that everything is already as it will be at the time that we merge this, and even if we wanted to change it, it probably would be a separate issue. So this issue is, I think it's, hang on, I'm loading it. It's marked needs work. But oh, I see. After I think you made a change, but it didn't get moved from needs work to needs review. I think this is back to needs review. I'm gonna go ahead and move it there.
Yeah, I think I was waiting for further input on that question before
Yeah.
saying it.
I'll put a note there real quick. Okay, great. Well, that means that that one that I thought needed work or was labeled as such actually is needs review, which is great. So that makes all three of our items for 124 that we currently have in place in needs review, which means they're all feasible. Those three are all feasible for the release. Yeah, my second issue that I wanted to get to was making text formats per field. I really doubt that one will manage to get through because it also has a lot of upgrade considerations. But I'll probably still move on to that one as soon as I get done with this role help thing. Tim had mentioned that there's the potential, there's other things people have raised that they're interested in working on that have already begun and are in progress, but they're not flagged in the 124 milestone. We'll see. You know, this week in between Christmas and New Year's is always a little bit of a, like, who knows what'll happen. Some people get really motivated and have lots of time available because of the holidays. Other people want to not work and spend the holidays doing holiday things and are not available. So it really matters how much alignment we have between the people that like are taking vacation and the people that are using their vacation to participate in open source software. So I think that that's going to be kind of the driver, as always, is, you know, how much time we have available if there's some more of these last minute things that come together.
Do you want to clarify what the deadline is? Is it
Yeah, yeah. Clarifying one more time, the deadline is always feature freeze is always the last day of, well, feature freeze is the first day of the month of a particular release. So that's January 1st, September 1st, or May 1st. But if that lands on a weekend, then we push it to the end of the weekend. And if that is not only a weekend but a holiday, then we push it to the end of the holiday. And so in this case, that's going to be January 1st is a Sunday, and then January 2nd is the observed holiday for New Year's Day. So we have until the end of January 2nd. That's the end of code freeze. Or sorry, the start of feature freeze. And as for time, like time zone, we're very fuzzy on that particular point. We kind of say as long as it's, you know, January 2nd somewhere in the world, like Hawaii, then that's good enough. But even then, it's just kind of like it's a pretty soft deadline as far as that exactly where that time falls. Yeah, and then we have the 2-week period before the January 15th release. Okay. Tim, do you want to mention this article that you posted?
Oh, just sharing the blog. There's just a blog post. I don't know if it's really all that valuable this year, but in some releases, it's been really helpful for people to be able to. The only things, the only issues that get flagged on the milestone are those that have an advocate. But sometimes there are other issues that we're working on that are close And this blog post is some issues that people have flagged that they're interested in seeing move forward. If anybody wants to add something to that blog post, they can. At this late date, it has less value than it did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But it's not too late. And as Nate said, it could be one of us has a little bit of time next week and is looking for issues that are close. And if you want to identify something and put it in this blog post, either let me know. If you have edit access, just edit the blog post directly. If you don't have edit access, just post it up in Zulip and I'll edit it for you. So.
All right. Thanks, Tim. And that blog post, it's got a long title, but you can just find it under the news blog on backdropcms.org. It's the third post down right now. Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap up for today. Thank you, folks, for being here as always, and thank you for your contributions and work. And we'll get together next week, even though it is in the middle of the holiday. It conveniently lands on a day that's not particularly important, December 29th. And so we'll still be having the meeting next week, same as always. So until then, we'll see you on the internet.